Sometimes life begins with quiet moments that touch the heart. Even if no one notices, those small moments form the deepest part of a story. Every breath, every feeling, every thought gently guides us toward a truth hidden within the heart. And this narrative is a reminder to anyone who carries a weight in their heart, a gentle touch that makes them feel they are not alone. What she found when she opened the door would turn her entire life upside down. When Victoria Hayes returned home from the office that night, she heard quiet conversations coming from inside the house. It was past midnight, and she realized Marcus was talking on the phone in his bedroom. His voice held a strange excitement. "We have to do everything right," Marcus said quietly. "He can't suspect a thing." "Of course, son," the voice on the other end replied. Victoria felt sick. It was her mother-in-law, Beatrice. What were they planning at midnight? And why on the eve of their 30th wedding anniversary? Victoria stood motionless in front of the door. Her heart was pounding wildly in her chest. In 3 weeks, they would celebrate 30 years of marriage. 30 years! The sum total of her youth, her dreams, her sacrifices. And now, her husband was making secret plans. She returned to the bedroom and quickly lay down on the bed. She closed her eyes, but her insides were burning. When Marcus came in a few minutes later, he assumed Victoria was asleep. He lay down on the bed, but his body was tense and restless. When morning came, everything was strange. Marcus was unusually affectionate. "Victoria, my love," he said, kissing her cheek. The scent of expensive cologne enveloped him. "What do you say we pick the restaurant for our anniversary today? I want everything to be perfect." "Perfect." Victoria raised her eyebrows. In 30 years of marriage, Marcus had never been this excited about family celebrations. Victoria always organized them, and he only found fault with them. "Okay," she replied carefully, watching Marcus run to work. His cell phone was on the nightstand. The screen lit up with a notification. Victoria couldn't help but glance at it. It was a calendar reminder. "Meet Elle at 11 o'clock. "Elle?" asked Victoria, watering the plants on the windowsill. "Who is Elle on your contact list?" Marcus turned abruptly. For a second, Victoria saw panic in his eyes, but she quickly pulled herself together. "Ah, Leonard, a colleague from Seattle. Just a consulting matter." "Lie." Victoria knew her husband like the back of her hand. His left eye always twitched when he lied, like right now. "I understand," he said, smiling. But inside, his chest felt tight. After Marcus left, Victoria stood by the window, gazing up at the gloomy October sky over Georgetown. 30 years! They had met in college. Victoria was a brilliant interior design student. Marcus was a rising real estate agent. They had married for love, with dreams of children and a big family. But the children never came. Doctors found nothing wrong, but no miracle happened. Marcus took this hard, especially when his mother, Beatrice, started making passive-aggressive comments about her grandson. Over time, they accepted being childless and focused on the positives. More time for themselves, travel, career advancement. But something vital had changed between them. A knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. Beatrice Hayes, his mother-in-law, was standing there with her usual dull smile. "Victoria, honey," he said, entering without waiting for an invitation. "How are you? Are you making preparations for the party?" Beatrice always treated Victoria with exaggerated courtesy, but kept a great distance. In 30 years of marriage, she never once called Victoria daughter. Slowly, Victoria replied, leading him into the living room. "Marcus wants to celebrate at a restaurant." Beatrice replied brightly, "A respectable place with guests. Making it at home doesn't show how important the date is." He began to look around, as if appraising her. Victoria knew that look. Without a word being spoken, it made Victoria feel that Beatrice's mansion in the suburbs was larger and better decorated. "By the way, Victoria, my dear," said Beatrice, settling into an armchair, "I've been thinking about the future. Marcus isn't so young anymore. He's 53, and we don't have any grandchildren. Don't you think it would be a good idea to write a will for grandchildren, perhaps someday?" Victoria felt a chill. "What grandchildren, Beatrice? We have no children." "Well, for my nephews," he said, waving his hand sarcastically. "I have 2 nephews. They're good kids. They're studying. They're working. If we don't, the government will take everything." Victoria gently placed her teacup on the table. "And where do you keep the house papers?" Beatrice asked suddenly, as if it were a random thought. I'm only thinking about the children's future. Nephews, nieces and nephews. That was it. Victoria understood the subtext. In the safe, he replied harshly. But why do you ask? Oh, just in case. You never know what might happen. It's good to know where things are. Beatrice finally left. Victoria sat in silence, piecing together the pieces, the midnight call, Marcus's strange outburst of affection, and now Beatrice's pointed questions about the house deed. The puzzle was being formed piece by piece, and he did not like the picture at all. Marcus's computer. He'd never changed his password before. He always used a simple key, the date they met, but this time it didn't work. His heart began to race. He'd never kept a secret from her in 30 years. He tried on her birthday. No luck. He tried on his mother's birthday. Still no luck. Then he considered reversing the wedding dates. It worked. His browser history opened, and what he saw made him sick. How to get divorced when there are joint assets, spouse rights regarding property, division, legal advice for separation. He had searched for all of this in the last 2 weeks. With trembling fingers, he scrolled through page after page. How to protect your home in a divorce. Legal tricks for dividing assets. Suddenly her phone rang. It was her friend Penelope. Victoria, you won't believe it, but I saw Marcus. I saw him with a young woman in a jewelry store in corner. They were looking at rings. She was hugging him, like nothing was wrong. What did he look like? Victoria asked quietly. She was in her 30s, blonde, very well groomed, wearing an expensive coat. She was beautiful, but she seemed superficial, and they were very openly showing affection. Are you okay, Victoria? Yes, Victoria lied. Everything is fine, but nothing was wrong. That evening, Marcus returned with a bouquet of roses and a luxurious box of chocolates. To my one true love, he said confidently, kissing her lips. My one and only. How ironic, Victoria thought. She looked him straight in the eye. We need to talk seriously about our future. Marcus tensed. It was a subtle gesture, but Victoria saw it. What should we talk about? He asked, turning on the TV and pretending to be engrossed in the programs. Everything's okay, right? The anniversary is in a week. All our friends will be there. We shouldn't spoil the mood with serious topics. We'll talk after the party, okay? After the party. This meant that something big was planned at the party itself. Victoria nodded, feigning agreement, but felt an icy chill inside her. After 30 years, she knew her husband well. He was calmly and coolly preparing something involving her mother, and certainly a lawyer. Marcus doesn't know is that. Victoria has an ace up her sleeve, something that could ruin all his plans. And for now, he's not going to tell her anything. Every journey begins with a vulnerability that's hard to detect. People often try to appear strong, but the voice inside whispers something more delicate, more fragile. It feels like something isn't right, but it's hard to express. Sometimes a feeling has no name. It's just a subtle tremor within us, a restlessness, or an inexplicable weariness. These feelings act like an inner guide trying to protect us. The next day, Victoria woke up with a knot in her stomach. Marcus left early, without breakfast. I have a meeting, he said. A meeting? Victoria thought bitterly. She knew exactly who she was with. At 11 o'clock a.m., the home phone rang. Marcus had forgotten his cell phone, leaving it face down in the kitchen. Victoria didn't answer, but the answering machine recorded the message. That's my mother. I spoke with Mr. Fisher. Everything can be arranged. The important thing is that she doesn't suspect anything until the last moment. Call when you can. Fisher, his Seattle colleague. Now it all made sense. Victoria felt as if she were slipping on the ground. 30 years. A quarter of a human lifespan. Now beside a man who planned his betrayal like a pile of office paperwork. Marcus's phone. It required a 6-digit code. He tried the date they met, September 1, 1999. No luck. He tried Beatrice's birthday. Still no luck. Then he remembered the blonde from the jewelry store. His instinct told him to try March 8th, International Women's Day. It worked. The mistress's birthday. The messages confirmed everything. Amber, my love, just a little more patience. After the anniversary, everything will be resolved. The house will be ours. You said we would live together until New Year's. I'm tired of hiding. My love, Everything is going according to plan. Mother has taken care of everything. Victoria doesn't suspect a thing. Fisher says if we play it right, she'll only get half. I'll keep the house. Victoria sank into a chair, her hands shaking. They were planning her life, as if she were second-hand property. Marcus, her mother, her lawyer Fisher, her mistress Amber, they were all tangled up in a trap in which Victoria was the prey. And the worst was yet to come. Mom, are you sure the deed to the house is in both our names? Maybe we'll get lucky and it's just mine. Son, I saw the copies when you got them. Both names are on them. But Fisher says they have their way. The important thing is that he signs. And if he doesn't, he'll sign. He'll have no choice after what we're going to do to him at the party. What were they planning to do to her at the party? Victoria felt anxiety rise in her throat. Were they going to humiliate him in front of everyone and accuse him of something? Wasting no time, she copied all the important messages onto her own phone and put Marcus's phone back where she'd found it. She needed a plan. She needed help. College friend Grace she called Chen, now a family law attorney. Although they didn't speak often, their friendship was strong. Victoria, Grace said when she answered the phone. Long time no talk. How are you? Can I see you today? Victoria asked, trying to remain calm. I need some counseling. I'm available at 6 p.m. Come to the office and let's talk. Grace's office was in a modern downtown skyscraper. She greeted Victoria with a hug, but immediately sensed the tension. Sit down. Tell me everything. What happened? Victoria took a deep breath. Let's say an acquaintance of mine is having problems with her husband. He wants a divorce, but he's keeping it a secret and it looks like he's setting a trap. Grace looked at him carefully. Are you sure this hypothetical acquaintance is you, Victoria? Victoria was silent for a few seconds, then told me everything. The late-night calls, the texts, Amber, her mother-in-law scheming everything. Grace listened, occasionally asking for clarification. I understand, he said finally. This is serious, but you're not lost. The good news is you reacted in time. Tell me about the house. When did you buy it? In whose name is the deed? We put it in both our names in 2005, equal shares. Are you officially employed? Yes. I'm the controlling director at Alliance Development Group. I've been there for 15 years. The weekend cabin is also in two names, but it's not very valuable. The house is the main asset. Grace took notes. Victoria, if you keep your head up, they can't do anything to you. In a divorce, everyone gets what's legally theirs. No one can force you to give up your share. But they're clearly planning something nasty. They want to put you in a vulnerable emotional position. Scandal, accusations, anything to break you. You need to be prepared. How do I prepare? Gather evidence. Take photos of messages. Record conversations if you can. Move some of the money to an account that's only in your name. Most importantly, don't let them know you know what they're doing. Victoria nodded. For the first time in days, she felt something like relief. She had a plan. She had support. Thank you, Grace. How much do I owe you? Grace smiled. Nothing, girl. Friends don't charge. Just keep me informed. And remember, no matter what happens, you are not alone or vulnerable. Victoria returned home with determination. But what she found upon arrival confirmed that the war had already begun. Marcus was looking at himself in the mirror by the door. You're looking a little pale today, aren't you? He muttered, not looking directly at her. Sorry, babe. But yes, Victoria, you've been letting yourself go a little lately. Look, turning 50 isn't the end of the world. But you do need to take care of yourself. Go to the gym, see a dermatologist, get something done. I saw Penelope's daughter today. She's 30 but looks 25, very well groomed. You? Well, you get the idea. He was comparing her to younger women, laying the groundwork to justify his betrayal. I have a meeting tomorrow, he suddenly announced. It's Saturday, but it'll last all day. Another date with Amber. No problem, Victoria replied calmly. I'm with my mom on Sunday. I'm going to set up her new smart TV. He spends time with the treason gang. That night, while Marcus was in the shower, Victoria checked their joint bank account online. $30,000 had been withdrawn in various transactions over the past month. Gifts for Amber, payments to the lawyer, and who knows what else. All from their joint funds. Victoria let out a nervous, brittle laugh. They were plotting her downfall using her own money. But he had an ace up his sleeve. something they didn't know. Events change, sometimes slowly, sometimes silently. As the days blend together, one can struggle to understand oneself. Small details begin to take on significance. A change in gaze, a restlessness in a night, the absence of an explanation. Even as the heart continues its usual rhythm, an intuition within it aches slightly. This ache often heralds a truth waiting to be recognized. A week ago, a letter had arrived from a notorious figure. His father's older sister, and Josephine, had died in Germany. She had no children or husband. She had left her entire estate to her only niece, Victoria. An $800,000 apartment in Munich, a $570,000 bank account, another luxury investment apartment in Miami Beach, Florida, a total value exceeding $3 million. Victoria hadn't told anyone. She wanted to surprise Marcus on their anniversary. But now, that money and property were her salvation. He opened his laptop and began researching how to record his inheritance, transfer the funds to his personal account, and legally protect himself from people who considered him a fool. Marcus thought he held all the cards in his hand, but the game was just beginning. Monday morning, Victoria woke with a clear plan. First, she went to a notary, but it wasn't the one handling her aunt's case. She went to see an old acquaintance, Mr. Perry, a real estate attorney who had helped them buy the house years ago. Victoria Hayes. How long has it been? How's Marcus? Mr. Perry, an elderly gentleman, greeted with a smile. Mr. Perry, I need your help, Victoria said as she entered her office. But it must remain strictly confidential. The lawyer's face grew serious. Sit down. I'm listening. Remember our house on M Street in Georgetown? You filed the deed in 2005. Sure. It's a very good apartment in a nice building. Do you remember who bought it first? I mean, where did the money come from? Mr. Perry frowned, opened an old file, and searched for a while. There you have it. It was an unusual situation. The money came directly from your parents' account, and you were listed as the sole recipient on the deed. Marcus was added as your husband 2 months later. Victoria felt a surge of warmth in her chest. So, officially a premarital existence. Officially, yes. Your parents gifted it to you before Marcus's name appeared on the papers. It could make a big difference in a divorce. He can only claim something if he can prove he invested in major renovations. Victoria smiled faintly. Marcus hadn't spent a single penny on the house. He'd done everything himself. Can you provide me with a confirming document? Of course. Come back tomorrow afternoon. It will be ready. As she left the office, Victoria felt different. After all these days, she finally felt strong, protected. But what awaited him at home took his breath away. A courier delivered a thick envelope from Germany, the final papers for Aunt Josephine's inheritance. Victoria read the lines with the help of a summary. An $800,000 apartment in Munich, a $570,000 bank account, and a luxury investment apartment in Miami Beach, a total of over $3 million. She sat in her living room. She was now a rich, independent, free woman. But Marcus couldn't know. Not yet. His phone rang. It was Marcus, his voice overly cheerful. Victoria, my love, I was thinking, what if we celebrated our anniversary really big? Colleagues, friends, everyone. Why such a big M? Why? 30 years, our first anniversary. I want everyone to see what a perfect family we are. I've already reserved the hotel's ballroom for 100 people. 100 people for his public humiliation. Isn't this expensive, Marcus? We need to save money. Don't worry about that, he snapped firmly. It's about the money. It's about the impression. We'll invite your boss. Your boss. Everyone should see how happy we are. What a cynical lie. Okay, Victoria said calmly. As you wish. Excellent. I have a meeting with some partners. We'll talk this evening. Partners? Victoria knew what that meant. In the afternoon, Beatrice Hayes arrived with a gift. Victoria, honey, he said sweetly, handing her an envelope. This is from me to you. Consult with an excellent family lawyer, just in case. You never know. Victoria opened the envelope, a business card. Fisher and Partners, Divorce and Property Law. With a note, free consultations anytime. How dare they? They were consulting with the lawyer who had planned her betrayal. Thank you, Victoria said sharply. That's very thoughtful of you. I'm worried about you, girl. My daughter. It was the first time in 30 years that her mother-in-law had called her that right before she stabbed her in the back. After Beatrice left, Victoria began cleaning. She found a crumpled card in one of Marcus's jackets. Mr. Fisher, family law, divorce, asset division, alimony. Same lawyer, same plan. Marcus came home late that night, cheerful and smelling of expensive perfume. He hugged Victoria. Everything is ready. The restaurant menu, the guests, it will be unforgettable. Victoria looked at him coldly. He was right. It would be unforgettable, just not in the way she'd imagined. What cologne do you use? It's not yours. She hesitated. I rode the elevator with my neighbor. She's wearing very strong perfume. My jacket smells. From one lie to another. By the way, he said, walking to the window, I'll be giving a private talk on our anniversary about our lives and future plans. What plans? You'll see. Surprise. Surprise. Victoria felt a chill. That night, she couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., she heard a murmur. Marcus was on the phone in the hallway. She got up quietly and pressed her ear against the bedroom door. Mom, everything is perfect. The restaurant is booked. The guests are confirmed. Everything will happen after the toast. Are you sure you don't suspect anything? How could he be suspicious? He's naive like a child. He always trusted me. And he still does. What if he doesn't want to sign the papers? He'll sign. After what I'm about to tell him in front of everyone, he'll have no choice. Everyone will see what he really is, you know? Wouldn't it be better if you do this privately at home, without making a scene? No, Mom. It has to be in front of everyone. That way she can't make a scene or ask for an explanation. She'll go straight home and Fisher will be there waiting for him with the papers. Quick, clean and drama-free. So does Amber know? Of course. He's even coming to my anniversary. I want him to meet my colleagues. I'll introduce him as my new assistant. You're ruthless. It's not cruelty, Mom. It's practicality. 30 years was enough. I deserve to be happy too, even if it's at his expense. Victoria went back to bed but couldn't sleep. So Amber would be at the party too. She would witness her rival's humiliation and then take her place at home. They thought so. In the morning, Victoria went to the bank. She opened a personal account and transferred half of the money from the joint savings. If Marcus wanted to continue spending it on his mistress, he would do so with his own half. Then she went to a lawyer to get a document confirming that the house belonged to her before the marriage. Then he went to work. Mr. Whitmore, he said, entering his boss's office. Can I speak to you? Of course, Victoria Hayes. Is everything okay? For now. Yes. I just wanted to warn you that I'll be entering a difficult personal period soon. Divorce? He asked, frowning. Seriously? I thought you were a healthy twin. You even invited me to your anniversary. That's exactly why I wanted to warn you. I hope I can count on your support if things go wrong. My work will not be affected. You are the best control manager we have had in 15 years. Your job is safe no matter what. That night, while Marcus was at another meeting, Victoria pulled out the estate papers. She needed a clear, well-thought-out plan. Miami Beach apartment was vacant, and Josephine had rented it, but the lease had expired a month earlier. Victoria could move in after the divorce. She had years of financial independence with the money in her German bank, and most importantly, proof that the DC apartment belonged to her before the marriage. Marcus would never see this. Tomorrow was the anniversary. Marcus thought he would deal the final blow, but he was the one who would be shocked. Victoria put all the paperwork in the safe and smiled. On Thursday morning, he went to the German consulate. He needed to formalize the inheritance to access and Josephine's accounts. The consul, an elderly gentleman with a neatly trimmed beard, examined the documents carefully. Everything is fine, Mrs. Hayes. Your aunt was a very cautious woman. The bank accounts will be unlocked within a week. The title to the Miami Beach apartment is in your name immediately. Here are the papers. You can dispose of it as you wish. Victoria carefully tucked the documents away in her bag. She now owned 3 properties, over $1 million in cash, and most valuable of all, complete freedom. He opened another account in euros the same day to prepare for an international transfer. The bank consultant, a young woman, stared at the numbers on the papers with wide eyes. Wow, you did really well with the inheritance, didn't you? Yes, smiled Victoria. My aunt was an incredible woman. As she left the bank, she felt a weight lifted off her shoulders. For the first time in years, she felt truly free and independent. Marcus was planning. It was no longer his problem. But the surprise that awaited him outside the hotel was a sharp blow. He had gone to check on the anniversary party arrangements. And right next to the entrance was a young blonde woman in an expensive coat talking on the phone. "Oh, my love. It's incredible," Amber was saying in a sickly sweet voice. "The ballroom is huge. The decorations are divine. You promised we'd be living in a big apartment soon, and I can already imagine having parties there." Was Amber, her husband's mistress. He was just a few meters away, talking excitedly about the life he would live with her. Victoria stood motionless, watching him. She was undoubtedly beautiful. In her 30s, with a great body, well-groomed hair, perfect nails. But her eyes were empty, cold, and calculating. "Of course, I understand tomorrow will be difficult," Amber continued. "But you said you'd understand everything after your talk. And I'll be there as your new assistant." Romantic, right? Is it romantic to humiliate your wife in public? Victoria approached. "Excuse me, do you know where the principal is?" Amber turned and looked Victoria up and down with disdain. "I don't know," he replied coldly. "I don't work here." He turned back to his phone. There's a woman here asking me questions." "Okay, see you tonight. I love you." A woman, Victoria smiled to herself. Tomorrow, this woman would present a big surprise. The restaurant manager, a polite, plump woman, greeted Victoria with a smile. "You're here for the anniversary tomorrow. Mr. Hayes paid for everything. Ballroom for 100 people, banquet, live music." "How much did all of this cost?" 45. Oh, your husband demanded the best of the best. $45,000 for publicly humiliating her. Victoria nodded. "I see. Can I see the ballroom?" Yes. The hall was filled with luxury, high ceilings, crystal chandeliers, pristine white tablecloths, and enormous mirrors lining the walls. All guests were guaranteed a perfect view of the show. "Where will the microphone be for the toasts?" Victoria asked. "Right here at headquarters," said the principal. Mr. Hayes insisted everyone hear him, of course, so that no one misses a humiliation. At home, Marcus was waiting, nervously pacing back and forth with the paper in his hand. "Oh, Victoria," he said, quickly holding up the paper. "Where have you been?" "I was in the restaurant, checking everything." "What did you think?" "Impressive. $45,000 for one night." "Seriously, isn't that too much? We have other plans, right?" "Don't worry about that," he sneered. "There's money involved. The important thing is to make a good impression on the guests." "Or the mistress?" That night Beatrice Hayes arrived completely excited. "Son, are you ready? Have you rehearsed your speech?" "Of course, Mom. Everything will be perfect. Don't worry." He patted her shoulder. "Your speech will be a success. Everyone will see that you made the right decision." "Right decision." Victoria watched from the kitchen, anger welling up inside her. "Mom, what if he makes a scene?" Beatrice replied confidently. "She'll hold her own with all these people. She's an educated woman. They'll sort it out at home." "All right, is Fisher ready?" "Yes. The papers are ready. All he has to do is sign. After your speech, he will have no other choice." Victoria quietly went into her bedroom and took her own documents out of the drawer. She had everything ready. She put all the documents in a small folder. Paper stating that the house belonged to her before the marriage, inheritance documents, and a recent bank account statement. Tomorrow these documents would change everything. Late that night, after Beatrice left, Marcus locked himself in his study. Victoria heard him rehearsing his speech, muttering the words to himself. She approached the door and listened intently. "Dear friends, today is a special day. 30 years ago I made a decision that seemed right. But life goes on. People change. And sometimes you have to have the courage to admit your mistakes." Mistakes. 30 years of marriage were his mistake. I thank Victoria for these years, but honesty requires telling the truth. We're different people. We have different values. We have different plans for the future. And I have made a decision. The rest was muffled, but the meaning was clear. Victoria returned to her bedroom. She had no desire to sleep. Sometimes a person creates a silent world to cope with what's happening. Within that world, emotions are deeper, thoughts more clear. Even if it's difficult to fully grasp what's happening, the emotions that accumulate in the heart reveal themselves. Fear on one hand, uncertainty on the other, and the struggle to remain strong. All of this combined creates a shadow that hovers around, making one feel even heavier than they actually are. In the morning, Marcus woke up in a different mood. "Victoria," he said, adjusting his tie knot in front of the mirror. "Today is a wonderful day." "Yes, it's our anniversary." "Not only that," he said with a strange smile, "today your life will change. And mine too. For good. Completely. You'll see. You'll be amazed." "Am I supposed to be surprised?" Can I ask you a question?" "Sure." "What? Did you ever really love me? Really?" He froze, his tie in his hand. "What a strange question. Why are you asking that on such an important day?" "I just wondered." "Of course I loved you," he said without looking at her. "I still love you. In my own way." In his own way. Like someone who cares for an old piece of furniture that has served its purpose. "I see," Victoria said quietly. All day long, Marcus was frantic, calling the restaurant, checking the guest list, giving orders. By evening he was visibly anxious. "Are you ready, Victoria?" She stood in the mirror in a new, elegant navy blue dress bought especially for this occasion. "Are you ready? Then let's go. It's time for the truth to be known." "The truth?" Victoria took her bag, where the documents were kept. "Yes. It's time for everyone to know the truth." They didn't speak on the drive. Marcus was nervous, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. Victoria watched the city lights from the window. 30 years ago, they had gone to court in silence. But that silence was due to excitement and love. Today, it was the silence before a war. "Victoria," Marcus said when they arrived at the hotel, "whatever happens today, I want you to know that I wish you the best." "The best?" What a cruel mockery. "Thank you, he replied with a serene smile. "I hope you get exactly what you deserve." Watergate. The hotel ballroom glittered. The 100 guests were seated at round tables, decorated with white roses and gold candles. The host sat at the head table. Victoria smiled and accepted the congratulations, but inside she was filled with tension. The blow was coming at any moment. "Victoria, you look stunning today," said Marina, a co-worker. 30 years together. How romantic. "Yes," said Victoria, looking around. "Very unexpected." All of them. Standing in one corner of the room was Amber, Marcus's mistress. She had been introduced as his new marketing assistant. Young, beautiful, and wearing a very expensive dress. She was chatting casually with some colleagues, as if nothing had happened. "Marcus Hayes, happy anniversary," said Mr. Preston Whitmore, CEO of Marcus's company. "Such solid couples are rare." "Thank you, Mr. Whitmore," Marcus replied, shaking his hand. "Today is a special day. I even prepared a very special speech." "Speech?" Victoria's throat went dry. Beatrice Hayes went from table to table, receiving compliments on her good son and her ideal husband. Her eyes were bright with satisfaction. She knew what was coming. At a small table in the back, a man in his 50s, wearing a dark suit, sat very solemnly. Victoria didn't recognize him, but she recognized his picture, Mr. Fisher, a lawyer. He was there in case she needed an autograph. "Dear guests," the master of ceremonies' voice called over the microphone. "May I have your attention? Marcus would like to say a few words in honor of his wife." A silence fell. Everyone turned to the head table. Marcus stood, took the microphone, and smiled broadly. "Friends, thank you for being here today on this important day. 30 years is not a small thing. A quarter of a human life is with someone." The guests nodded and raised their glasses. Marcus continued. "What unites us? What makes us happy? And what doesn't?" Victoria tensed. "It's starting," she thought, "and I learned something very important. People change. What seems right when you're young can end up being a mistake." The ballroom grew quieter. People exchanged confused looks. 30 years ago I chose the woman who would be my life partner, guided by youthful emotions. But life has taught me to see things more clearly." "Marcus," Victoria murmured. "What are you talking about?" "Really, dear, it's time to stop lying to ourselves." He turned to the guests, his voice harsher, more determined. "Dear friends, I want to be honest with you and with myself. For 30 years I endured a life with a woman who was not right for me. A dull, boring woman who didn't know how to be a successful man's partner. The ballroom erupted in confused murmurs. Marcus, are you crazy? Someone shouted. On the contrary, he said calmly, I'm finally thinking clearly. Naomi needs to understand that. Our marriage is over. I'm filing for divorce. The hall was shocked. Some held their breath. Others clasped their hands to their chests. Her mother, Beatrice, smiled triumphantly. Marcus continued, finding courage. I want a fair division of assets. Victoria needs to get out of the house. It's time for a new life, new relationships. Openly at Amber, who stood behind her, the blonde woman barely concealing a triumphant grin. Is this a joke? Asked a surprised woman. Are you sane, Marcus? His boss demanded. More than ever. He replied coldly. I have the right to be happy, and I will exercise it. Victoria will get what she is legally entitled to, and we will part on good terms. So, is that young girl your new conquest? Shouted one of Victoria's friends, pointing at Amber. Amber is a wonderful woman. She understands what I need, Marcus said bluntly. Unlike other people. That was enough. Victoria slowly stood up and gently took the microphone from her astonished husband. Thank you, Marcus, she said in a quiet, almost sweet voice. The room fell silent. Everyone waited for the tears, the drama, the escape. You know, my dear friends, Victoria continued, Marcus is right about one thing. Enough with the lies. I want to speak the truth too. Marcus frowned. This wasn't in his script. The truth is, I knew about this whole charade 3 weeks ago. I knew about Amber. I knew about Lawyer Fisher in the corner. And I knew about your plans to make me give up my rights to the house. Mr. Fisher gasped and tried to slip away unnoticed. But angry guests blocked his way. Victoria, what are you talking about? Marcus wanted to cut in. Your plan has fallen through, darling. You see, she said, pulling a folder from her bag. You made a small mistake. Our house isn't jointly owned. It was a gift from my parents to me before we got married. I have a document from the real estate attorney. Marcus stepped back. This can't be happening. What's more, Victoria continued, I inherited an inheritance from my Aunt Josephine in Germany 3 weeks ago. An apartment in Munich, another luxury apartment in Miami Beach, and over $1 million in cash. The silence in the hall was absolute. So, what division of assets are you talking about? You get half the cabin and half the car. The rest is mine. Against the wall, Amber was as pale as paper. And now for the fun part, Victoria said with a smile. Do you know how much your successful man spent on this little game of publicly humiliating his wife? $45,000 from our shared savings. The guests began to mutter angrily. But I'm not spiteful, Victoria continued. Marcus, you're free. Take your wonderful woman, as you say, and live where you want. Just not in my house. Marcus whispered. We can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. I'm filing for divorce tomorrow. Fisher can leave. I don't need him anymore. Then he turned to the guests. My dear friends, I'm sorry to ruin your evening, but sometimes truth is more important than appearances. Thank you for coming. Now you know who's who. But one day, in that place where everything intertwines, a person begins to confront their own truth. This confrontation doesn't happen overnight. First, a subtle enlightenment, then a tiny spark of courage, and then a powerful inner voice emerges that says, I can't stay here anymore. That voice can sometimes be as soft as a whisper, sometimes as palpitations, but no matter how it arrives, it propels a person forward. Victoria put the microphone down on the table and walked towards the exit. A scandal erupted behind her. Marcus, you're a complete scoundrel, one woman shouted. How could you do this to your wife? 30 years and you'll get away with it. Amber tried to leave quietly, but the angry group of guests blocked her way. And what about you, homewrecker? Did you think it was easy to steal someone else's husband? Have you no shame? Beatrice Hayes went from table to table trying to explain, but no one was listening. Meanwhile, Victoria left the restaurant and breathed in the cool night air. Freedom. He stood in the doorway and looked back at the chaos within. Through the large windows, he could see the card Fort Marcus had spent months building was crumbling. He was in the middle of the ballroom, pale and dazed, like an actor who has forgotten his lines. The microphone lay on the floor. The the guests shouting around him. Mr. Preston Whitmore, CEO, approached him. Marcus Hayes, I am deeply disappointed in you after this performance. I think we will need to reevaluate your position within the company. But Mr. Whitmore, you don't understand, stammered Marcus. It's not what it seems. Victoria has twisted everything. Did she get it twisted? Marina, one of Victoria's colleagues, interjected. We all heard what you said. I've put up with a colorless woman for 30 years. Aren't you ashamed? A different scene was unfolding in another corner. Amber pushed through the angry guests, finally realizing that her dream of living in a luxury apartment was over. He grabbed Marcus's arm. What's going on? You promised me an apartment. Where's the money you gave me for our new life? Shh, Marcus whispered, looking around nervously. She's not here. Why isn't he here? Amber shouted, becoming hysterical. I've been waiting for 3 months. You said we'd live like kings after the divorce, and now what? The guests turned curious, some already recording with their mobile phones. Marcus pleaded, we'll talk later. But Amber laughed bitterly, almost hysterically. What are we going to talk about? You don't have an apartment. You don't have any money. You tricked me. He turned to the guests. Do you want to know the truth? This successful man promised me wealth for 3 months. He bought jewelry with his wife's money. He promised me a huge apartment in the city center. Amber, shut up! Marcus shouted in desperation, but it was too late. And he took out a loan using their joint assets as collateral. He spat, becoming increasingly angry. He thought his wife would never find out. He took $20,000 from the bank and another $15,000. He spent it all on me. The room was silent. Victoria didn't even notice. People often try to appear strong because they know it's hard to show their vulnerability. But there are times when your heart tires from holding back the emotions you're trying to hide. The nights feel a little longer. You're breathing a little heavier. And even if you don't tell anyone, the silent storm inside you slowly draws you in. Beatrice Hayes, trying to stay inconspicuous, ran towards him. My son, what is this woman saying? What loans? What legacy of Victoria? Marcus muttered. I mortgaged my mansion to pay you for the lawyer. So what now? How am I supposed to pay? Another blow. Even his mother was now in debt because of his scheme. Wait. One of the guests interrupted. Did I understand correctly? Did the 3 of you plan to deceive Victoria? No. Not 3. 4. Amber spat out. So did Lawyer Fisher. He was going to get her to sign over the house to him. Everyone turned to Fisher's corner, but his chair was empty. The lawyer had already fled. Beatrice Hayes screamed, attacking Amber. This is all your fault. You drove my son crazy. Is it my fault? Amber retorted angrily. Your son seduced me. He said his wife was stupid and would easily manipulate him. The men separated them just before a fight broke out. What a disgrace, a woman said loudly. Mr. Whitmore, doesn't Victoria work for you? Yeah, and the best auditing manager I've had in 15 years, the CEO said firmly. After this circus, all I'm going to do is raise his salary. As for this guy, he glared at Marcus with disgust. He should look elsewhere. He won't last long in this condition. Marcus tried to smooth things over by going back and forth between his mother, his mistress, and the angry guests. People, you don't understand, he cried. I have a right to be happy. 30 years is too much. An elderly woman approached her, Victoria's Aunt Clarice. And have you ever thought about how she felt after living with a selfish person like you for 30 years? Aunt Clarice is right. Victoria's other family members agreed. People like you don't belong in our family. It's a good thing Victoria learned that early. Otherwise, you would have continued to deceive her for the rest of her life. Hey, what if we post this on social media? Said one of the young guests. So everyone knows who this prize guy is. Yeah, the others agreed. It must be on the Silver Jubilee Trader trend. No, wait, Marcus pleaded. Don't. This is my private life. Private? Amber laughed. You humiliated your wife in front of 100 people. Now you care about privacy? Slowly, the guests began to leave. First Victoria's family, then her colleagues, then her acquaintances. As they left, each one offered his or her opinion. Marcus Hayes, a colleague, said as he left, after tonight, don't even pretend you know me. What a shame for the family, a neighbor murmured. How will he face the public now? You're trash. one man said bluntly as he left. You exposed your wife in front of everyone as a joke. Of the drama remained in the ballroom, Marcus, Beatrice, Amber, and a few curious waiters. What now? Amber asked, smoothing back her messy hair. Do you have any money, Em? Where from? He complained. I spent it all on the party, your gifts, and the loans. So who will pay? I don't know. Maybe I'll sell the car. The car? Amber laughed bitterly. Are you crazy? Even that wouldn't pay the debt. What about me? I left my ex for you. Marcus repeated. I don't know what to do. Beatrice Hayes sat with her face in her hands. All right, what do I tell Fisher? He charges for every consultation, and I put my house up as collateral. Mom, Marcus said, coming closer to her. We'll find a solution. Solution? He lifted his face, his eyes red. I'm 70 years old. I'm homeless because of your stupidity. Then Amber stood up, adjusted her bag and said, You know what? I'm leaving. You're both completely useless. Don't ever call me again. Forget about the money you owe me for the last 3 months. Consider it payment for this life lesson. He stopped at the door and turned. Your wife is a wonderful woman. What a shame I got to meet her true face today. Women like them deserve respect. He left, the sound of heels echoing sharply. Marcus and his mother were left alone in the ballroom, surrounded by half-eaten plates and spilled glasses. Said Beatrice softly, what if it's not too late? What if we go to Victoria and beg for forgiveness? Marcus shook his head. It's too late, Mom. You saw his face. He'll never forgive us. What do we do then? I don't know. He repeated a third time. I swear I don't know. Meanwhile, Victoria was returning home in a taxi, following the city lights. She carried 3 property deeds and bank statements, showing over $1 million in her bag. Nice night, isn't it? The old driver asked, looking at her in the rearview mirror. Yes, Victoria said with a smile. It's beautiful. I can say it changed my life. That's good. Some days it changes everything. Absolutely, he replied. Everything has changed. And indeed, his life was changed forever. Yet every rupture is pregnant with an awakening. Even as we navigate the darkness, we learn to find our way. Sometimes a single sentence, a single glance, a single realization is enough to change everything, because the heart is both hurt and strengthened when it sees the truth. 3 months later, Victoria was in court, watching the life of the man she had been married to for 30 years fall apart. Marcus looked 10 years older. White hair, worn face, cheap suit instead of his usual expensive ones. The judge, an elderly woman with glasses, examined the documents carefully. Very well, he said finally. The court rules that the apartment on M Street in Georgetown is the separate premarital property of Miss Victoria Hayes, and is not subject to division. Marcus panicked. His lawyer, no longer Fisher but a young public defender, simply threw up his hands. A cottage property is considered marital property and is split in half. The same goes for a luxury car. Marcus's lawyer stood. My client used that car for business. Denied. The judge replied firmly. The car was purchased with joint marital funds. Victoria said nothing. Her friend and lawyer, Grace, smiled secretly. Everything was going according to plan. Furthermore, the judge continued, it has been proven that Mr. Marcus Hayes concealed substantial debts from his wife. Bank loans of $20,000, $15,000, and a quick loan of $8,000, a total debt of $43,000. But these are his personal debts, the young lawyer objected. According to Article 39 of the Family Code, the judge calmly replied, debts incurred during the marriage are the responsibility of both parties. However, since the money was not used for family welfare, but for the applicant's personal affairs, he alone will be responsible for repayment. Marcus looked even paler. $43,000 in debt, and it was all his. This court formally, the judge concluded, dissolves the marriage between Marcus Hayes and Victoria Hayes. The defendant keeps the apartment and all bank accounts. The plaintiff keeps half the value of the cabin and half the car. Since there are no minor children, no alimony is awarded. The gavel strike marked the end of 30 years of marriage. As she left the court, Victoria felt a strange sense of peace, as if a great burden had finally been lifted. Marcus shouted, "Wait!" She turned. Her ex-husband was standing on the stairs, clutching a file of documents. "What do you want to say?" "Forgive me," he said quietly. I was a selfish fool. You didn't deserve what you did to me. Victoria looked at him closely. Was it genuine remorse? Or was she just trying to make him feel bad? Marcus, he said calmly, I don't hold a grudge. We're just very different people. You wanted an easy life at the expense of others. I'm used to fighting for my own. Can we meet as friends sometime? No, Victoria replied softly but firmly. I'm sorry, but no. It's better for us each to go our own way. He turned and walked towards his car, a sleek new car he had bought with a piece of his German heritage. Life went on and everyone got what they deserved. A month after the divorce, Marcus lost his job. Video of his anniversary party went viral on social media, and his company's CEO no longer wanted to deal with the scandal. Marcus Hayes, his boss, said on that final day, I can't have someone on my team who puts on a show like that. But I'm a good professional. Maybe you are, but your reputation is in the trash. I'm sorry. Then life begins to send small signs. Some behaviors become inexplicable. Some words become empty. Some feelings disappear, and one grows even more exhausted trying to suppress the voice of one's own heart. Because inner restlessness is one of the heaviest burdens. Finding work was difficult. Everyone knew him. The video #silver anniversary was already trending as a traitor. No one wanted to hire him. He eventually started working as a taxi driver in his old car, which he had to buy back from Victoria for $15,000. Half its value. She now lived in her mother's small one-room apartment outside the city. Beatrice had been forced to sell her downtown mansion to pay off debts and buy something smaller and cheaper. Beatrice would say at night, looking at the cracked walls, don't you wish you'd listened to me and had nothing to do with that Amber? Marcus would reply, counting the day's earnings. Too late for regrets. Amber, on the other hand, was doing great. 2 months after the scandal, she married a 50-year-old entrepreneur who owned a restaurant chain. He was rich but not very smart. She believed his whole story about a toxic relationship with a married man. Amber's wedding photo, which she uploaded to social media, showed lavish bouquets and gold jewelry. The caption read, "Finally found true love. #happy #new life." Marcus saw those photos and smiled wryly. Amber got what she wanted, a husband with money, but he wasn't her. Victoria was living a completely different life. She moved into Aunt Josephine's investment apartment in Miami Beach. It was a spacious, light-filled apartment with ocean views, a true oasis amid the chaos of the city. No longer wanting to be an accountant, he used the money he inherited to open a small publishing house specializing in translations of European literature. This was his life's dream. Victoria Hayes, Mr. Whitmore said when he resigned, "We don't want you to leave. Are you sure you won't reconsider?" "Thanks," he replied with a smile, "but I've found what I'm truly passionate about. I'm dedicating myself to books." "Well, I wish you the best. You know what? After everything that happened with your ex-husband, many female employees in our company look up to you. A woman should know how to stand up for herself." One evening her friend Grace came to visit. "You look very pleased," he said, looking around the comfortable living room. "Are you feeling revenge?" "You know," Victoria replied thoughtfully, "I don't feel revenge. I feel relief." It wasn't revenge. I was just defending my rights. The truth always wins, even if it takes time. They drank tea on the balcony, watching the twinkling lights of Miami. "Do you regret those 30 years? "No," said Victoria, shaking her head. "Those 30 years taught me something invaluable. To trust myself and to value honesty above all else." The publishing house employed 5 talented young translators, publishing fine books in small print runs for those who appreciated good literature. Victoria, her editor Anna, said one day, "Your story is very special. My mother was there for that anniversary. She works with your old boss. She says there are few women like you." "I don't consider myself a strong woman," Victoria replied. "I've just decided not to be a victim." A year later, she received a letter from Marcus. "Victoria, I don't know if you'll read this. I just want to say I understand. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. I lost you because I was stupid and greedy. I don't ask for forgiveness. I know I didn't deserve it. I just want you to know that you deserve the best in the world. Be happy, Marcus." Victoria read the letter and put it away in a drawer. No anger, no sadness, just a memory of a past life. That night, She went out onto the terrace with a cup of coffee. Miami was ablaze with lights. Music played in the distance, and the air smelled of summer flowers. She was free, financially independent, doing what she loved, and for the first time in many years, she felt truly happy. Elsewhere in the city, Marcus drives his old car, transporting passengers, wondering how he could lose everything in a single night. Yes, the truth always triumphs over lies, even if it sometimes takes a while. The feeling that something is wrong first appears like a small shadow. Then the wind in your face changes direction. Your words lose their meaning, and your gaze becomes empty. You come to a crossroads within yourself. A fine line forms between continuing and protecting yourself. But the beauty of emotions is this. No matter how tired you are, the hope within you never leaves you. It silently holds your hand, trying to lead you out of the darkness. It may be slow, it may be painful, but it will always lead to the light. And in the end, one finds oneself again, slowly, step by step, with a heart that is hurt but strengthened. Because no matter what one experiences, the goodness and love within a person guides even in the darkest moments.